host, Sally Knox. With me today is Lorenda Carr, Evidentiary Medium. One of the most painful events in our lives is losing a loved one. The finality and emptiness can overwhelm us, and many times we struggle finding our way back to a fulfilling life. What would you give to hear from one you lost, to know they are, well, always in our presence, witnessing our lives until it is our turn to cross? Lorenda Carr offers just that opportunity. Communicating with a loved one and understanding that life continues can be very healing and reduce the emptiness that block us, moving forward in a full and even richer life. Lorenda, thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much for having me on, Sally.
Well, this is exciting, and I'm so glad that you are willing to talk with us. Can you briefly tell us just a little bit about you and how you came into mediumship, and more specifically, what separates evidentiary mediumship from the regular mediumship?
Okay, well, just a real quick background on myself. I didn't grow up, seeing spirits, or I could finish people's thoughts, but people just thought I was rude, so we kind of blew it off. But then as I got older, I was more and more interested, more and more drawn to things like tarot and just spirit work in general. And I felt like I was kind of denying myself the opportunity. So I would say things to my friends like, well, I'll start learning this stuff when I get a sign. And then I would win a free reading. And then the reader would say, you're going to do what I do. Like, oh, no. This went on for a very long time. And finally I had a conversation and I said, the only way I would ever be, really into this, is delve into this, is if somebody like Sylvia Browne or John Edward, because I idolized them at the time, this is back in the early 2000s, would tell me. I guess if one of them told me, I kid you not, a week later, I get a phone call because I belonged to some club with John Edward. I had won a free one-on-one reading with him.
Oh, wow.
And he said, you're going to do what I do.
Oh, wow. That is so, wow. Oh, my.
Yeah. Talk about your spirit guide saying, are you listening yet? How about that? That's that whole Jeff Foxworthy's reference to "here's your sign."
Yeah.
So in that moment, it took me a little bit to let it set in, and in that time, I decided, it's time to live my authentic self, and I started with just understanding tarot cards. Mm-hmm. I started just like little at a time, and I would say all the time, I'm not a medium. I don't talk to the dead people. I don't talk to spirit. I just get, signs and signals, and I'm learning the language of my guides. I am learning them. And then turns out actually that is mediumship, but I didn't know what I was doing. Right. So it's been a really long journey, but an educational one. And now here I am able to much, much more easily communicate with the other side. And as far as like mediumship, all that means is that I'm in tune with my spirit guides, and they are actually the mediums. But to be honest, I'm just like the deliverer of the messages.
The conduit.
And yep, I am the conduit. And so I'm able to. What the evidential part of it is that I'm able to say things to you via them that I have no idea what in the world these references are. So I may just say something like, well, spirit impresses me with a wooden block that has pink paint on it. And that person may be able to connect to that, where I have no idea what the reference is. But that is the evidence for the person sitting there in front of me to know who's coming through. So it's one thing to be a medium and be able to hear the messages. It's another thing to be able to effectively deliver those messages to provide evidence for the client.
Mm-hmm. And how does that information come into you? Does it come through like a knowing, a visual? Is it audio or audio?
So my guides, they think they're funny. Sometimes I beg to differ because when it is like literally learning a new language. So when I first started my journey, I would just get pictures. Okay, so for example, I started doing readings on my friends because they're, flexible, and they were like, okay, this will be fun. I saw this cute little lady with a little old lady with a very specific look to her, and I described this lady, and they were like, oh, that sounds like my grandma. Okay, great. So the next time I do this message, do another message with someone else, I see the same lady. I'm like, well, I see a lady with. They're like, well, that's my grandma's not dead. Turns out I was only supposed to say the word grandma. That was my picture, my word cue, or my picture cue to say the word grandma. And so, like, my guides and I have worked out a system. If something doesn't work for me, I'm like, hey, you're going to be a little clearer on this. I will tell them. Like, we have a fluid relationship that way now, where it started out as I would hear things, feel things, see things, and then I would have to ask, okay, what does that mean? And so it's been literally like learning a whole new language. Good thing I was good at languages in school. Because
Right.
that's exactly. And I feel like I play charades, and and sometimes they will deliver the messages by, if they want to tell me how someone passed away, that part of my body might hurt, or I might just get the urge to touch that part of my body, and I'll be like, why am I touching my chest right now? And they'll be like, oh, that's my grandma, she died of a heart attack.
Oh.
So that's the kind of things that my spirit guides will bring to me, and 9 times out of 10, none of it makes sense to me. I just have to say what I hear.
So, have you got a story that you could kind of relate to that kind of experience? I think before we started, you were telling me once about a song that sort of triggered something.
Yes, I was doing a reading not too long ago, and before we ever jumped right in, I hear this song, the oh my darling, such a random song. And I just turned my head and I looked at her and I started singing that song to her. And I said, why am I singing this song? And she starts crying. And I'm like, well, hit something there. And she said, my grandmother used to sing that song to me. That was our song. So obviously
that's
there's no way.
evidentiary piece that you're putting to this puzzle. It's
Exactly.
something that connects us to that specific person and not just the generalized, I'm fine, let them know that they're loved and we're with them. And by giving that song, you're actually connecting or stitching together those two energies.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. And that was one of those moments where I was blown away. Like, spirit surprises me all the time with these things. And that was something that I was just like I made sure to thank spirit over and over again for that validation, because that was so comforting for her as the client too, because she was really hoping to connect with her grandmother. And I hate when I sit down, I'm like, well, I have a grandmother energy here. Well, we all have grandmothers how many generations back, but it's one thing to say grandmother. It's another thing to be able to give something so specific.
And something that you wouldn't have known about prior to the conversation.
There's no way. Right.
Yeah. Wow. So when you are talking with the other side, are you ever concerned that you may have a trickster energy that may be pretending to be grandma? Or how do you differentiate between the real deal and the live or Memorex sort of experience?
I'm so glad you asked that question, actually, because I do get people that will come to me as clients, like they're afraid. They're afraid to get readings because what if the devil coming through, or what if it's a demon or trickster, as you put it, energy. Mm-hmm. But in my early days when I first started just trying to figure out, doing readings and trying to figure out what I was hearing, what I was seeing, I would get some of those weird things happening, but I didn't understand how to protect myself and ground myself from negative energy. And now that I understand my guides more, I literally don't talk to anyone except my guides. So they're my filters. So they're my screeners. So, I will have, they will bring my joy guide specifically, and her name is Lily, and I'm thanking her now out loud. She will bring spirits to me. Like, she's the gatekeeper. She's the ones that she will bring the spirit that should communicate with the person that's sitting with me. And she will give me the messages. So I know that they're already filtered. I don't have direct contact with that person. It's kind of like if if I was some famous movie star and that's my press agent, it's being filtered through in my dreams, but you never know. But but only the filtered questions get to come through. So, but it's filtered information, meaning like I'm only going to be giving, because if I talk directly to the spirits, even if they're the actual spirits, I get flooded with information. I can't talk fast enough. And then it's all over the place. It's just because the energy on the other side is so much bigger than we are. And it really helps to have a manager there. And that's exactly what my joy guide is. She's my manager. She filters everything through, and I say what she tells me to say. And she tells me what I'm seeing and what messages that I should be giving. Sometimes they make sense to the client. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes if I don't say things right, then they will literally eye roll me and be like, why don't you just listen? How about you just say what we're saying? Quit trying to figure it out. It's not your job. Right. It's not my job to interpret. And that's the other thing. It's not my job to interpret what it means, because it's none of my business. It's only a message for the client.
Right. So do you ever go shopping and you get nagged like Teresa from Long Island Medium, or how does that work? Do they follow you around and say,
no, because, it's kind of like, again, I don't know. It's a movie star reference is it's just like ego driven, but I would say when I'm out, I don't want to be at work. So why in the world would I invite spirits just to talk to me all the time?
Mm-hmm.
And not everybody wants to hear that. Not everybody wants to be shopping for their lipstick, and then all of a sudden, some random person comes up and says, "Hey, your dead grandmother's talking to me," and then no, I just want to buy my lipstick. To me, and then that works for Long Island Medium. I get it. That works for her, whatever. But that's not where I am. And plus, if you are really, truly, when you open yourself up like that, when I sit down, before I do a reading, I meditate, I open everything up, I connect with my guides, I plug into their energy, we make sure we're high-fiving, great, we're all on the same page. And, I feel like I only deliver information that people want to hear and that they're ready for. And clients are brought to me so they can hear the messages when they are ready for it. And honest to goodness, I just don't want to be out shopping and feel the urge to go up and talk to people. Yeah, I kind of want my own personal space too. So
I'm sure. Yeah.
So it doesn't do anybody any good. And it's invasive. To me, it's invasive. But again, I'm not judging. It works for her. Clearly, it's working for Long Island Medium, Teresa. But I feel like it's exhausting also. It takes a lot of energy to do this. So when I do, if I do a sign session where I'm in a group, doing a group reading, I'm ready for a nap afterwards, because it's draining. And I can't imagine walking around open with my open portals and open messages 24/7. I'd be exhausted all the time.
Right. And yeah, that would play havoc on your personal life for sure, just like it did with Teresa's personal life.
Yes.
So there are some, people who would really benefit from hearing from mom or grandma or dad or whoever's crossed, but perhaps they're wrestling with, I am afraid I'm going to hear something that, is going to be really bad, or, something I don't want to hear. And I'm always, in my mind, I'm thinking, Spirit will give you what you need at the moment, and it's not going to deliver bad messages unless it's something that you can correct. So is that true? Is that what you're finding when you're communicating with the other side?
Absolutely. And, part of the deal with my guides is that, one, don't show me death unless I can prevent it. If a person's supposed to die tomorrow, if that's in their contract and they're dying tomorrow, I do not want to know that. And, I believe fully that people, with the people I work with, will only get the messages that they can handle in the moment, the messages they're ready for. And the more I do this, the more I realize that is absolutely 100% true. Because look, when I would go get messages, I've been going to psychics since I was like 22 years old, and they all told me, you're going to do what I do. And I'm like, that's so funny. I'm not psychic. And but I wasn't ready to hear that message. But the other messages that I would receive were the ones I needed in the moment. And they were all baby steps to get me ready for what I do now, or, to where my life was supposed to go. They're not predictive. I don't want to say that they were, I'm not a predictor either. I will show, we all have free will. There is no definite how things play out. But I feel like Spirit will only give us what we can handle, and they will show us the paths. They will show us our options. They won't show us the entire map.
So I'm really glad that you said that, because it brings up kind of an interesting thing that I've noticed when I'm working with people and we're going through remote energy healing. And even sometimes we do some remote, now that COVID came in, some remote hypnosis. One of the things that I've noticed is that many of my clients have gone to psychics and they've said, well, this thing's going to happen. And they sort of plant in their head that this thing's going to happen to them. And when I'm, kind of in that multi-dimensional space trying to clear negative energies, oftentimes I'm not seeing that at all. And so I sort of come to the conclusion that you have to be careful working with psychics and psychic mediums, because they have their own filters and lenses that they're looking through that sort of skews the information. It's almost like you and your spouse or somebody you love very much, you're communicating, but you're like saying one thing and they're thinking, well, wait a minute, what are you talking about? When you're thinking, oh, we should be on the same page. Why are you taking this way? And I don't think that shifts just because we cross over. Have you had that experience when you work with others?
Yes. So actually, even in my own experiences. So my experiences through when I was, going to my own psychics, they would always tell me, you're going to divorce your husband and you're going to be with somebody different. You're going to be with somebody different. And for years, I was convinced that my husband and I were going to be divorced. And that this is all because psychics kept telling me over and over again. And they were predicting my future. And a lot of people will go to a psychic because they want their future told. And that's not how this works at all. It's not how it works. And we are shown things that are going to come into our path, and we might see the end result if we go to that path. So in the end, yeah, my husband and I had a lot of issues, but when it was all said and done, I'm not married to the same person right now. We never got divorced. I am married to someone completely different because we went through a really rough patch, and I said, enough is enough. I'm living authentically. I want you to live authentically. And if we don't like each other being authentic, then we should separate. And so ultimately, neither one of us wanted to be divorced. So but we actually like each other as our authentic selves, and living our own truth and not living what society wants us to do. So yeah, they were right. I'm married to a different person, but I never divorced him.
Right,
we are still together 22 years later.
And
I
think that's such a powerful lesson right there, because
yes.
if you think about it, that's very layered. And if you think about it, oh, I'm going to go get divorced. Now I think you would be looking for reasons to get divorced.
Yes, it was self-fulfilling prophecy. And I had a friend of mine that I was going through this journey with. We were learning the cards together. She kept saying, oh my gosh, you're just like me and my husband, and you're going to get divorced. And she just kept putting it on me. I'm like, I don't know that I'm going to get divorced. But I mean, when you hear it over and over and over again, you begin to believe it, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And so I am extremely careful because of that, especially because of my own experiences. And I believe that Spirit brought me those experiences to be able to share later. Is now when somebody says, well, am I going to be with my husband in 10 years? I'm like, I don't know. Are you? Let me tell you what I see. I see you with a person that looks like this, or that's in this vibration. And I will often tell them that story. I'd be like, that doesn't mean you're going to not be together. That means you both need to face face your own truth. You need to step into your own authentic self, decide whether you want to be together as your authentic selves, and then move forward. You may absolutely adore each other afterwards, but you're not married to the same person. You're married to a different person, even though it's the same person.
And that's sort of true with us as well, because we're shifting and changing and evolving, hopefully,
absolutely.
or not going down the rabbit hole that fear tends to breed. So you hear like that message, you're going to get divorced, and you hear it from several people, and it's a different person. I mean, that to me is so detrimental to your own spiritual growth, instead of saying, okay, so what's going on in the energy field now that can be corrected?
Yes, exactly. And, when I will tell people, I am not here to predict your future. I'm only here to show you the paths. And I'll do on my YouTube channel, I'll do like a daily vibe check. I started it more for me as part of my learning process. And I just kind of stuck to it, where I'll be like, okay, what spirit want me to know for today? What kind of vibration is happening today? It's not what doom and gloom is going to happen, or should I look out for a Mack truck that's coming? It's what's the overall vibration? Because if we know that things are going to be rough that day, if I pull a 10 of swords and we're like, hey, so this may not end well, I need to be alert. So we can be prepared, but not necessarily, oh, we're going to get hit by a truck today. It's not like that. It's more of, okay, so when I know I have my ear to the ground, I have my eyes open. So if a negative energy or someone who's in a bad mood comes to me, or something comes at me, I'm not surprised, but I have a game plan.
Well, and I know makes all the difference between whether or not you're going to navigate those bumpy waters in a healthy way, or if you're going to, get swamped by it in your little lifeboat.
Yes. And so, nobody likes to be, hit with 10 ton of bricks out of nowhere and be like, whoa, where'd that come from? So that's where working with someone like myself, like the type of work that I do, is it's not so much about where am I going to end up. Like I do readings for a network called Biddy Tarot Network, and it's just like I do them. It's like a free service, and I always am getting, who am I marrying? What do they look like? It's a tarot card reading service, by the way. And just so you know, tarot cards do not come with names on them. So if it pulls up, I'll know exactly who you're going to marry. But that's the kind of questions I get. Who am I going to marry? When am I going to find him? Where's my twin flame? Where's my soulmate? I don't know. But I can tell you what the vibration is for you, and what options you're going to have, and what you should be looking for. And I think it's important to, as a reader, as a person who does readings, it's really important for me to educate my clients on those things too. I will not take on a client who just wants me to predict their future.
Do you feel that a lot of times, I get lazy. Let's face it, I think probably all of us do, especially now that I'm sort of stuck in my own spot here. But do you feel like a lot of people just want to be told how to live their life, instead of learning how to feel the life, feel the energies, and feel, okay, I've got this option, I need to figure out how I'm going to get through it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I've noticed that, like, just with energy healing, I had a lady who approached me once, and she wanted me to tell her if her daughter was still alive. She'd had no contact with her daughter for a couple of years, and that she was this drug addict. And I'm like, I have to work with people's permission, so I'm just not going to jump in and, do it without this person's permission. But the other layer to that is, I don't do predictions, because what if I'm wrong? And I think that happened once with Sylvia Brown.
Yes. I was going to actually bring that up. That was on my list to bring up. Funny how us psychics work together.
Yeah.
You know what? I think ultimately that was. So I've owned every single one of her books. I watched her every time she was on Montel Williams. I thought she was amazing, and I truly believe she was gifted. But her demise was, she got ahead of herself, and she became a predictor, and she got really confident in what she was seeing, which, when you do it every day, I guess that's normal. But when she thought that, she was like, oh no, honey, your daughter's dead. And then she turns up alive after mom's already died of a heart attack, because she was,
heartbroken,
heart sick. And then all of a sudden Sylvia Brown's a fake. And I'm like, no, I believe she had the gift. she just got ahead of herself, and she became the person people wanted. You're right. People are lazy. They don't want to do the work. They want to know everything so they can just plan it out. They want full control without having to navigate their way through it.
So
And
don't you find that when people do that, they're losing kind of a piece that if they would learn some of the techniques that that can be shown to them, they would actually have a richer, more greater experience than if they
yes,
were just relying on somebody to sugarcoat it and throw them a bone.
absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's where I think that's what just differentiates different mediums and different psychics and people. I mean, I believe there are people who are gifted, who have the gift of sight, they can talk to their guides and who get those messages, but they are so desperate to be right and to be accepted by the client that they will predict. And then in my opinion, that is, like you said, is taking away the experience. We are here because we chose to be here to learn lessons. And part of that is when you're learning how to drive, you don't get your driver's license and then go hire a driver.
Right. And that sort of brings me to you know, the energy can be going in a certain direction. I love how you put that. Because that sort of leads us into the powerful you or we that we can be, and that we create whatever futures that we want to create for ourselves. So if, say, well, you're going to get divorced, and if you got, you know, twisted, I'm going to get divorced, you might have given up and say, no, I'm going to go ahead and get divorced. You know, heck with it. Why do I want to fight this? You know?
Right.
Or you could have done what you've done, say, you know, that doesn't really feel right to me. I'm going to process through this. I'm going to see what each day brings, and I'm going to take it one at a time. And now you have a richer experience for it. But I don't know that everybody has either the patience, or I don't know if maybe there are some psychic mediums out there who want, or even other people to be reliant on them to give them information.
And the thing that I feel, there are too many people out there that this is the way they earn their living, and they depend on it. And unless you are spot on every time proving things, it's fear. It is just the fear of not being right, or not being able to. I said a long time ago, you know what? I'm already a tap dancer. I do shows. I don't need to be at the dog and pony show for the mediumship either. I'm not here to entertain you. I'm here to deliver specific messages that you're supposed to hear, and you have to do the work.
Right.
I'm going to connect you with your spirit. I'm going to show you how to navigate this yourself, but I'm not going to do it for you. I'm not just a party trick. And I feel like so many people that choose this work go into it for all the right reasons, and then they get so caught up in, just like any industry, like it's almost like selling out. It's like when you go in and you're a Juilliard musician, you've gotten this amazing degree, and then all of a sudden you find yourself doing cheesy pop music, and like not using, it's all digital, and you can't even hear your actual own voice. Everything's synthesized, and you're not even the artist that you set out to be, because that's what got you the money. And so you thought, well, I'll do this and then I'll go back to. But then you get so far down the road that you can't go back to it. And I do this, me personally, I don't do it for my livelihood, for a reason. Because then I never depend on being right.
Right. You want to be able to give the right messages from the other side so people can learn for themselves how it comes in, and that they can learn that for themselves. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm here to basically facilitate a lesson from the other side. Again, not even about me. It has nothing to do with me. And it's just my job to say, okay, here's the classes you're signing up for, and this is what you have to do. Good luck. I'm not here to do the work for you. I'm not going to tell you how to take the test or how to pass the test, or how it's going to turn out. That's up to you. And people need to understand that fear is a human created experience. It's not even like a legit thing anywhere else in the universe. It's here. It's from here, and we are the only ones that stop us from doing what we want to do.
Right. So when we talk to people that like with a medium, and we're moving forward and trying to get, just to make sure that life continues, and it sort of eases our pain a little bit. Now we can sort of tune back into ourselves and learn how to talk with our own loved ones, and how to, if we take the time and the energy, how we can expand ourselves.
Yes, exactly. My goal is not to have a client come see me every month. I don't want that. I mean, sure, I'll take your money, but it's pointless. And I've actually turned people away to say, hey, no, you're not really ready for that. You have not implemented a single lesson that we talked about. And I try to educate people on how to figure those things out themselves. I don't, I love you all, but I'm not running your life for you. And my goal is to help them find those answers on their own.
The power within themselves, because
I think
absolutely. That's really key right there is, take the power back from everybody else and put it within ourselves, and use you or my energy work to help clear the negative energy, so you can become more clear and focused. But this way you can do the work yourself. You can embrace the powerful you that we all have. And I think that you and I, when we do our work, people sort of think, we're the go-to person to fix their lives. And we're just sort of highlighting, okay, so this is what I see. We can clear this out, but you're going to have to take it upon yourself to either change the way you're thinking or create a different manifestation for you. And I think that really sort of takes me back to something earlier that you said. And that was sort of that creative power that we have within ourselves. And so instead of me creating your life, I'm going to clear the energy so you can create your life. It can be staying married or getting divorced, but you are the creative power, not somebody outside of you.
Right. And I absolutely, you're spot on. And that's exactly how, especially when I get a client who's never done anything like this before, and they are so desperate to fix their lives, and they know energetically that they are a train wreck and they need that guidance. To me, it's not about sitting down, well, the cards say that it's not even about that. It's, let me show you how you can recognize what is good for you. Let me show you, let me show you what I see in the Akashic records for you. This is what the lessons you are trying to learn. This is what you are supposed to be learning, and you are where you are supposed to be right now. Congratulations. And let's see what we can do to navigate your next steps to get you to where you need to be.
Freedom of choice.
It is. Oh, we have 100% free will here. And now I understand that people growing up may not, they may come from extremely religious I've got a very good friend who's extremely psychic. She'll be like, oh yeah, so you've got a ghost standing next to you. But she feels bad that she sees these things because she's brought up in such a strict religious environment that said these things are evil and bad. If you see these things, then you're probably Satan yourself. And it's just that kind of that. So when we come here with no veil. We come here with no preconceived notion that what we really are is, light and love. We have no idea. What we learn is what we are conditioned to believe. And that's by the people that are around us. And so when you're an adult and you have all these things that have been put on you, and then you realize I am not living, people know when they are living their authentic self or not. If you feel like you are just a train wreck all the time, all these things keep happening, you don't understand why, you're trying to be a good person, but life keeps falling apart and you don't feel happy ever, then you're not living authentically. And it's time to, that's where those are the clients I love to get, because I can sit down and help them navigate their own energy. And I can tap into spirit.
Again, that sort of stems from fear. I was raised to believe this because my loved one taught me that this was really bad, so it must be true. So that sometimes is very difficult for some people to, wait a minute,
Yes.
that may not always be the case. There may be something else out there that is okay.
Yes. Yes. I kind of fell victim to it a little bit, like, well, I can't be doing this kind of work because people think it's weird. And one of the courses I took during COVID, I've taken all kinds of courses, interestingly enough. But one of the segments was coming out as a reader. Like, how do you come out to your family that you're a reader?
Right.
Because it's so it's hippy dippy, or it's just willy nilly. There's so many words, weird, or people will be like, well, you're a witch, right? I'm like, no. I mean, I can be. I've got a broom. I mean, if you need me to be, I sure can. I've got teenagers. Yes, I can be a witch. But in that regard, no, that's not what I do. I work with spirit in my own way, and I am an energy that's an extension of my giant energy, I guess. Like, what I'm here right now is just like a tiny part of who I am in as far as energy goes. And I think it's important that we connect and plug into each other and feel each other's energy and share the good, positive energy, and let people know this is such a small part of who you are. And let's live authentically, because when you live authentically, you feel better. You are successful because you know that whatever you're doing is for your greatest and highest good.
Right. And I think when that sort of marries in with what I do, energetic
Mhm.
work, is that when
Yes.
people come to me and say they have rheumatoid arthritis, well, that's because they're holding on so tightly, and usually to anger, and they can't control things, and and so it's an
Mhm.
an emotion that they're holding on to that creates the illness. And I do know one family member that has it, and it sort of ties into their particular faith will not allow for anything other than a certain experience, which, even though she may not say, she feels, she's got all this pent up anger that she's too fearful to move outside her box. And
Right.
and I think if we don't learn how to say, well, that might have been right for this person, but I don't feel like it's right for me, and I need to take my power into me and expand that, and feel that it's right. So if you're trying to tell somebody or teach somebody how to connect into them, what is some of the advice that you would give them to give them the permission to override some old teachings that may not benefit them, but may benefit the person that they were raised with?
Hmm. Um. Gosh, that was a lot. Honestly, I just make them. I suggest people to just go back to the basics because if it's that big, they're overwhelmed with it. Like, if it's just all that, they're overwhelmed with it. And I tell them to go back and, like, okay, how did you learn to pray? If it's a religious person, how'd you learn to pray? Well, I do this. Okay, for Catholics, we do the rosary. Okay, great. So you know the rosary prayer. So let's start with that as a form of meditation. Start with that. Ask Spirit to show you things while you're doing that. Just start with the basics. Start with what they know, and encourage them to allow them to expand their mind and accept messages that are coming in, because then what will happen is it'll just open up this portal for them, and they're going to start seeing, oh, wait, okay, so I'm still doing what I was taught I could do, but then I still have this other great energy over here. And what people will find is the more they are open to receiving messages and energy from, positively, your body can heal itself. Like, there's just so much more. And so when it's, I'm just now starting to get into healing work. That's also something that I've been told for years I'm supposed to do. And I'm like, okay, fine, I'm doing it. So yeah, I'm in the middle of learning that right now too. But I have to just try to empower them to listen. Open your eyes, open your heart. And when they're not sure, I just try to give them visuals of things that they can do in their everyday life that will help raise their vibration.
Right. And that's sort of how I've always, when my clients and I, when we're starting our work together, one of the things that I've noticed through the years of doing hypnosis work and just the energy work is that you feel it. Your body can feel it. Your subconscious mind knows everything.
Absolutely.
It expresses itself through how you feel. So if you are like, if you have a question, should I go down path A, and your body feels tight, then the answer is no. But if your body feels light, then the answer is yes. And it's all about being in tune
Mm-hmm.
with how your body's feeling, because the conscious mind is a bit like a monkey. It'll lie to you all day long and it will chatter all day long.
Yes. Yes. That's the fear and the doubt and the human experience that gets stuck in the 5% of our brain that we use that can really mess everything up, can't it?
Right.
and block us.
Right.
Yeah. So I agree with you.
So before we end closing, I think if you have a story that you could share with us that sort of pulls at your heartstrings doing this work, that, you know, something that gets you up every day and do this type of work. Have you had an experience that just sort of like, oh, I know I'm on the right path?
Yes, I have actually. There's been a number of them, quite a few. One that sticks out to me very specifically is before I accepted the fact that I was a medium. This was one of those moments where I was like, oh, we're going to go there now. Okay. I had met with a client. It's not my first time meeting with her. I'd met with her a couple of times, and it was usually about work stuff. And I said, now remember, I'm not a medium, but I'll intuitively work. I'd go down my normal rundown. I don't do this. I don't talk to the dead people. Blah 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 blah. I kid you not. Halfway through this reading, I find myself, I'm talking. It's almost like that feeling of standing outside your own body and like watching something happen. I was talking. And to this day, I could not tell you what I said. It was before I started recording sessions, and I could see that my client was crying. I don't know what I was saying. She was crying, and she, when it was all said and done, I was like, wow, that was weird. I have no idea what I just said to you. I'd never channeled before. Oh, wow. And I'd never done that before. And of course that was part of and I don't do this, and they don't talk to me. That's like spirit going, hold my beer. Oh, you think you don't do that? Right. Okay. Hang on. Put on your seatbelt. But the person who came through me was one of her former students that had passed away from leukemia. And she had not said this to me. She had not said, I want to connect with this was before I even asked what people wanted to know right away. I said, okay, let's start the reading. We'll see where the cards take us. And then we'll just kind of ask, you can ask questions, and then we'll see what happens. Great. I just start talking, and apparently whatever I said was everything that she needed to hear. Apparently I was giving her specific dates, names, very specific things, and it was the most bizarre thing because I still have no memory of what was said. Wow. But for her, she was so relieved that she had answers, and that she knew that she did everything that she could, and that this little girl, this student of hers, made it to the other side, and that everything surrounding, there's no bad karma coming anybody's way. Nobody dropped the ball anywhere. Everything was fine. It was part of her journey. And that this was a moment for her to be able to believe and learn that there's life beyond here. So for me, I walked away with that going, first of all, here's your beer back. And thanks for that. That was cool. And then also just to see, she's a regular client. She sees me like twice, maybe 2-3 times a year, just like for a quick reading. And she's like, okay, well now I've hit this milestone. kind of on the fence which way to go. Kind of guide me, and I'll tell her, if you go this way, this is kind of what the vibration is. If you go this way, kind of expect this. And she's like, cool, good. And then 6 months later, she'll pop back in with a confirmation or validation. And
oh, that's beautiful. See, that's why we use people like you. That's the reason. That is awesome.
Yeah, that was a life-changing moment for me. And then I'm telling someone else, well, I'm not, like a month later, I'm telling someone else, well, I'm not a medium, but man, this cool thing happened. And I'm telling this to another medium. And she's like, what do you mean you're not a medium? Who told you that? I was like, well, I don't see dead people. She's like, you're not supposed to. Oh, okay.
So, now it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just experiences, and it's learning lessons every single day, and hoping that I can just give back to other people and help them on their journey, and to be enriched and feel this sense of peace. Like I can't explain knowing what I know and what I've been shown and taught, and the experiences I've been able to give other people. There's this overwhelming sense of peace within me and around me. And I don't feel completely stressed out like all the time anymore. And I want that for other people. I want them to know that life does go on. This is a video game. You are in a video game. Mm-hmm. This is, and if you die, that's fine. You can go back to the beginning and start over. It's fine.
So
it'll be okay.
When you have, when you sum up everything, mm-hmm. what would you like to tell people out there from your experiences that you've had?
Life goes on here and on the other side. The people that we love here on earth, they're our soul family. We are with them all the time, whether here or on the other side. And we are here for experiences. So don't stop yourself from experiencing this life. That's why we're here. And it's okay to feel joy. It's okay to feel happy. Give yourself permission to live your fullest and biggest life. That fear has no place.
That's such a beautiful message. And just kind of on a kind of a sub note, some of the questions that people ask me when I'm doing this work is, what does it feel like to be on the other side? I mean, does it feel solid to them? Do you have a sense what it's like for them on the other side? I mean, does it feel solid like here, or do they just live in this, I don't know, energetic ball?
It feels just when they will show themselves as if they're in human form, because that's what we know. That's what our brains comprehend. But when I feel, it just feels energy. Like my spirit guides, yeah, they present to me with a certain look, but ultimately I know them by their energy. And it's more of a feel. It's hard to explain. It's a feel. It's a light. It's this. It's just something way bigger.
Can they see? Can they hear?
I think how it's presented to me as a medium is like, because I'm a human living a human experience, I think they show it that way. Mm-hmm. They show it because that's how we comprehend it. But I don't know that that's how it is on the other side. I feel like on the other side, yeah, we might be in like a light. I feel like we're light. We're just light floating around, and we recognize each other. And it's hard to describe, because I've been in meditation where I've been like in the Akashic records, and I've been at a planning table where we're pulling off, scrolls and opening them up, but it's not like I see a bunch of actual people standing around. It's just energy kind of in the form of kind of a body, but not really, if that makes sense. Because really we don't, anytime we come back to earth, we don't look the same anytime we come back. But when spirit comes through to us to prove the continuity of life, they're going to show us the body form that we know and recognize. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So yeah, it just sort of helps,
because that's what our brain knows.
Connect. Yeah. Yeah, because that's what we understand right now. Until we get on the other side, and we're like, oh, yeah, this is what it's supposed to be
That's
like.
that
What
is
was
our
that
earth.
experience that I just had?
Right. But that's our agreed upon reality here on Earth. Is that
Yeah.
this is what we see, this is what we hear, this is what we, and I don't know who thought this would be a fun game, but what the heck?
Yeah, no kidding. It can be a bit bumpy for sure.
I feel like I think I like it on the other side better. But on the other side, it is all about lessons and learning and growing your energy and being and contracts and being light and the light for each other and the light for yourselves and taking it all back to God and understanding that we are just part of one big giant ball of energy.
Yeah, fractals of God. Yeah, that is what I would love for people to know, because I think that is so beautiful to understand that we're not separate from God, but we are a finger or a fractal, His energy. We are.
Yeah,
And
we are.
I was trying to explain that to somebody once. You are God, and like, oh no, I'm not God. I'm like, no, I'm not talking about your ego. And there's kind of a difference.
Right.
It's not your ego I'm talking about.
Right. We are an extension.
Right.
Of.
Mm-hmm.
Of God. So yeah. And some people find comfort, and I think also in the work I do, and I know you do too, is to help people feel comfort in that, in knowing that they are part of something bigger, that we are never, ever, ever alone. Because when people have such bad human experiences here, they can often just feel very, very lonely. And I feel like my job and your job and any other energy worker or light worker, that's our job, is to make people understand you are not alone. You are just a teeny tiny piece of something huge and amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And
Connect them into that. Connect them into the being that they
yes.
are meant to be, and not the illusion that they've created or someone has created for them.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So, well, that's beautiful. So, if somebody wanted to contact you, how would they do so?
They can find me on www.sign is s-i-g-n.com. It's Spiritual Insight Guidance Network. Yeah, you can just contact me through there. I actually have 2 other partners in this particular venture that I'm doing, that we share our page with, and you can contact me through there, or you can just email me at spiritualinsightnetwork@gmail.com.
Excellent. Well, thank you. And thank you so much for taking time and joining me today. And I look forward to hearing other people's responses. So if you can, leave a comment or email Lorenda if you have any questions. Thank you, Lorenda.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.